Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. I watched the film yesterday. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great central performance from yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Really great. I know I haven't got too long today, so I'll sort of get started. But it was sort of my first question. Really, was just the kind of initial attraction to The Reckoning. What was it about this project or this story and character and world that made you think, right, I wanna get involved in this one?
Well, it kind of emerged. So the idea came to me and Neil through a friend of his, who's the third writer on the film, and we knew there was something there. But it was very basic. It was a germ of an idea. It was about a young woman falsely accused. But his whole thing was he wants, the Carrie-esque, that she goes round with a broomstick and starts killing. And Neil just wasn't into that. But we knew there was something there, and we were like, okay, well, let's just run with it and see what we can do with it. And then during the process, Neil was just like, I'm just not into it. And then I said, wait, well, what if there's no witches, right? Carrie's already been done, right? What if it's just an ordinary woman, or at the very least leave it ambiguous? It's an ordinary woman, and then it started to become relevant. And then I started to relate to it more. A young woman falsely accused of being a witch. And then it kind of grew from there. So it was an emerging process, really.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, because I mean, was there much research into this topic? Because I know, because it's mad to think this was a real thing. Women were killed for being witches. I mean, even just saying that out loud sounds mental.
It's insane. Yeah. We did so much research for it. Neil wanted to make it as authentic as possible. And the more we researched it, everything in this film is true. What actually happened, the trial period, the tortures, everything of that. And the difficult thing was trying to find tortures where the outcome wasn't fatal, right? Because the famous one is if you dip a woman in water, and if she sinks, she's that's the fate, but it's fatal either way. So it was just trying to find these kind, and it's brutal, as you see in the film, what they are, but she survives. But my whole thing was like, the more this script was emerging, I was thinking to myself, gosh, like, what has changed 1665 to today? There's still men abusing their power, there's still witch hunts, there's still a class system. It was just, and of course we're making it 2 years ago, we didn't know there was going to be a world pandemic. So it's pretty relevant.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I mean, in terms of drawing parallels, I mean, of course, there isn't the burning of witches in today's society, but metaphorically, the attitude towards women. I mean, were you still able to find relation to this kind of, sort of trial by public, this kind of putting women in the spotlight, in a position where they're kind of set up to lose no matter what they say or do?
The story of, okay, this woman, of course we wanted to leave it ambiguous if she's a witch or not, because some people think she is, and then the story going from there, and then that's and the more we dived into it, the more relevant it become. That one person abusing their power, he doesn't get what he wants, so he puts a false narrative out there. And today it's even worse because you have social media, that it's like a wildfire, whereas back then it was just more hearsay. It's extremely relevant. It really, really is.
Yeah, I don't think witches would last very well on Twitter these days. No.
Yeah, cancel culture, and it's very interesting. Very, very, very relevant.
Is it interesting for you now watching the film back with a kind of new sort of perspective, given, like you mentioned, the kind of pandemic? Because obviously this is set kind of around the same time as the plague, and it sort of delves into how humanity reacts to kind of a global thing of that nature. So obviously when you made it, that wasn't a thing. But when you go back and revisit it now, do you watch it in a kind of slightly different way now?
Oh, yeah. Like, the plague masks and... I heard somewhere a few weeks ago someone saying about in the US, I don't want to wear a mask, that's the devil's work. And I think that's exactly what someone would say back then. Again, like making it 2 years ago, we had no idea what was coming, and then watching it today, because the thing is that the plague element is more the backdrop to the film. It's not really meant to be about it, it's just about how it actually was relevant with the witch hunts and the witch trials. Because I don't know if you know, but they were killing the cats a lot of people were killing cats because they associated cats with witches. Well, in killing the cats, that would spread the plague, because there was no rats, because all the cats were dying. So yeah, it's really weird watching it in a pandemic and wearing it in a screening room with your mask, and yeah, it's weird. It's like we've come full circle.
So how is it working with Neil and collaborating? Because I know obviously it wasn't just as a director, but as a kind of a writing partner from an early stage on this project.
Oh God, amazing! Because the thing he come at it from a director writer point of view. I haven't written anything before. It's my first time, and I came in with an actor's point of view, and it was really good. I don't come from the horror background at all, and he did. So he was thinking of the horror aspects. I was just thinking of it as more story, character. So it was a great collaboration and a great balance, because we were coming at it from two different sides.
Has it given you the bug to want to write more and get involved in kind of behind the scenes stuff going forward?
Well, we've actually co-wrote 2 other films.
Oh, wow.
More of a monster action movie, and then a gangster movie.
It's funny, isn't it, how these kind of relationships can kind of come about. You can just find someone like-minded creatively. So you must have been thrilled that you guys found each other in this industry.
Yeah. No, it's a great balance. And then when actually coming to set, I wanted to kind of not think about what I kind of wanted to come with it as like a fresh pair of eyes. I didn't want to think of all the things that I wrote, and yeah, it was ingrained in me to a certain extent, but I wanted to think of it, right, okay, as an actor, how would I approach this, and looking at it from a different point of view.
You mentioned the set. I mean, it must be good, because I've been on the occasional set visit, and I've been on one before that was set in this kind of period, and just walking around there, the kind of brown kind of buildings and the mud on the floor and everyone in their kind of outfits, it transported me just as a journalist to that place. It must be so helpful to you as an actress when you're on the set, because it makes it more immersive, I guess, for you. It makes it easier to get into the head of the character when you're in that environment.
Oh God, yeah. When you're in the environment, you just soak it all up. You just totally do. And then the costume as well, and the hair. And we didn't make it too, the way they spoke back then. We wanted to keep it more contemporary, but everything else was pretty much authentic. So yeah, the costume really helped. The environment, the props were great. I have, the big swords and horse riding. I've never done that before, and loved doing that. And yeah, getting nitty and gritty and in the mud and everything. Yeah, it was fun. I loved the physical side. I didn't think I would, but I loved it.
Yeah, we mentioned the great collaboration with Neil, but what was it like working with Sean Pertwee as well? Because he's a great actor, isn't he? He's been he worked with Neil years ago on Dog Soldier.
Yeah. He's phenomenal. He's a real chameleon. Like the way he transformed into Moorcroft when he just put that moustache and that epic hat on. He was amazing. He's very powerful and effortless in his performance.
And obviously you've starred in sort of supporting roles in kind of major productions. How was it having the kind of responsibility that comes with being the lead almost in every single scene? Because I know obviously that's what every actor wants, is to be the kind of the focal point and the central part. But does it add a kind of a pressure of sorts, knowing that you're not just there for a day or two, you're kind of every scene revolves around you, the nuances and subtleties of the character's development all kind of lay on your shoulders in some ways?
Yeah, I mean, this was the first film that I was literally in every scene, and I was thinking, shit, I've got to carry this film, and that was really tough. And it wasn't just it was a really emotional performance. Like every day, it was number 10, right? It was just, I had to be at that level, and that was the most challenging, the emotional drain of the whole thing, right? Doing that every day, but I didn't want to think of the pressure in that sense, because that would just terrify me. I was just thinking of, okay, every day I've got to bring as much truthfulness to this character as possible. And yeah, that was it. I didn't want to think about the reality of I've got to carry this movie. It's pretty scary when you look at it like that.
I mean, because it is a great kind of leading role. I mean, just because obviously it's been something of a tumultuous kind of couple of years for you. Are you keen now to kind of move away from that stuff and just focus on your work and let your work do the talking? I mean, obviously in some ways, given there is still dialogue to be had and issues to be confronted, it is a fight that ought to continue for a while yet. But it must be quite nice for you now to have this film and be like, I'm going to let my performances and my work now kind of take the limelight.
Yeah, and some people are judging me on the crap that's out there. And the thing I'd say on that is Grace, in her character, her story was told and complete. Mine isn't, right? My story still wasn't finished in that sense, and I so want it to be finished, and it is in the process, but I still need to have the right to speak and tell my side of the story, which I haven't. I'm currently fighting to enforce a law, basically, that allows me to speak and allows, basically, NDAs are illegal. That's never yet been enforced, and I'll be enforcing that for the first time. And if I win on that, then what the plan for me to do is to clear my name, set the record straight, because I'm not allowed to do that, and then move on. I so desperately want to move on, but I feel like I can't do that until the truth's out there.
Yeah, it must be incredibly frustrating, this, for you.
Yeah. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. It's like I'm tied to the rack verbally, because I just want to, set the record straight and clear my name. But yeah, I can't do that. But what I'm doing, in at the moment with trying to enforce this law, which is actually incredible that actually no one's actually enforced this law. After the Me Too movement, it's never actually been enforced. And it's so important. It basically says, if you've been sexually abused, NDAs are illegal. Victims are allowed to speak. It's simple as that. And yet it's not yet been tested. I don't want to say tested, because the law is very clear, enforced. And once that is been enforced, then I can just tell my story without having my hands behind my back, tied behind my back, and then move on. Because I don't think I can move on. I mean, I can move on, but I don't think I don't think it'll be fair for me to keep going on my journey with this black cloud hanging over me, because people have this perception of me, and it's just so not true. And I need to clear the record there. I really do.
I wish you all the luck in that happening for you. In regards back to the work side of things, what have you got? Have you got much lined up? I know obviously the last year was a bit mad.
Oh, God, yeah.
But has it picked? It seems that the industry is back on its feet to some degree now. So have you got?
Yeah. Well, we're actually in soft prep right now. I'm actually in Hungary. We're shooting the next film that me and Neil co-wrote, called The Lair. It's about a British fighter pilot crashes down in Afghanistan and releases these monsters. So it's Neil likes to say it's Alien meets the Descent.
Yeah, well, that's me sold.
I know it's full on action, and it's very different to The Reckoning, very, very different. And so that's the plan next. And then there's a few other things as well on the pipeline, and just keep at it, I want to just keep doing as much as I can.
Yeah, because according to IMDb, which obviously where I do all of my fantastic research, you're playing Nicole Brown Simpson. Is that something that happened? Yes, yeah. Is that still to come, or has it been already?
No, yeah, that's still to come. We've shot most of it. The director's still got a few more things to shoot. That again was like challenging in itself, because I had the responsibility of playing a real life character. I was in quite a lot of the film, but I wasn't carrying the film like I was in this one. But that was pretty challenging in itself, because I had to, play this character that was pretty famous, and it's really difficult when you're playing a real life person, because you really are up to scrutiny, because people are just totally judging you on what they see the character to be than the way you're playing it.
Yeah, it must be a bit of relief working with Neil then, and playing characters in a bit otherworldly, I suppose. It takes that pressure off.
Yeah, just fun. Like, especially The Reckoning, I guess, wasn't fun. But The Lair is a real audience pleaser. It's a lot of fun. And a lot of action. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Well, best of luck with the rest of the shoot then. So you're shooting it now by the sound of things. So yeah, I hope it all goes well.
Yeah.
And maybe by the time that comes and gets released, we can do interviews like this in person. Who knows? Maybe the world will be back to normal.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey You Guys.